right. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Ronald Gordon with Texas in Color, our afternoon edition. Of course, some of you have been tuning in at 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock. We open it up to all times. This election is getting close. So we got to hear from a little bit of everybody to make sure the word is getting out and that we are educating the voters. Right now, today, we have Justin Parker with us today. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you?
All right. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay, yeah, first, thank you for having me here. So my name is Justin Parker. Um, I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. Was raised in Hutto, Texas. Um, after going to high school, took a year off, went off to the military, served in the Navy for a while. Got out during COVID and came back. Started at school at Austin Community College in Austin, Texas, um, and really started getting involved. Um, I have a pretty extensive background in politics, from being a DNC member, um, from being the vice president of the College Democrats of America. I previously also served as the City of Austin's College Student Commissioner. So that's a little bit about myself, and I'm excited to talk with you.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. What inspired you to become politically active and an activist for changing in your community? What are you doing to get that going?
So, what inspired me was really in 2017. My grandmother, she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and it was a really tough thing to take as a family. Um, and she was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. There was no sort of healthcare options for her to get the treatments there in Louisiana. Um, they didn't have the specialties that she needed. She would have had to move to Texas for that. When she applied to get those treatments in Texas, Texas denied her and told her that she could not leave the state of Louisiana to come get those treatments. Um, from that moment on, I realized that there's some level of disconnect. There's some level of disparity between our healthcare system and our policies that we have in place on how we're helping our citizens. We all pay into health insurance, and when it's time for that needed moment that you actually need the help, they weren't able to help, and so that's what really kickstarted it. And that's why I do the work that I do today in honor of her.
Okay. Um, can you share with us any specific experience or movement that solidified your passion for being an activist? Activism.
So I would have to say it was after the murder of George Floyd. Um, that reminded me so much of what my family went through when my cousin Elton Sterling was killed by Baton Rouge Police Department. That happened while I was in high school, and you know, after seeing so many years or seeing so many victims of police brutality keep on happening. Um, at the time, I was in the military, and we were told, that we weren't allowed to actually get involved and actually be able to go out and protest and things like that. I was at a small command. We had a hand select full of black sailors at my command, and I'm like, we have to have some sort of conversation. Like, we need to actually have this sort of dialogue, because before that, us as black sailors at the command I was at in Boston, we were facing racial discrimination from the police already. Every time that we left the base and we weren't in uniform, one of us was getting stopped by Boston Police Department, and so I started leading that change of really activating to my commanding officer, and I'm a junior sailor. Like, that is not something that a junior sailor is supposed to be doing, but really leading that change and leading that charge to talk to my commanding officer about really starting those conversations. And we ended up starting a community forum. We had the mayor of Boston join in on those, and it actually started an initiative within the Navy of starting of increasing the retention rates of black sailors, increasing the promotions and advancements, the awards and recognition, and so that is something that really started and got me like really like okay, yeah, I'm in this and I'm not backing up.
Yeah. So, excuse me. How has your identity as a young black person shape your perspective and approach on the political activists in Texas?
So I think as a black person, as a young black person here in Texas, um, we're in a difficult position because um, at, a lot of people they might not know, but here in our state, recently, the state of Texas they enacted and passed Senate Bill 17, and that bans any sort of DEI initiatives on college campuses. So it makes it hard for individuals like myself and other young black people that want to get involved to actually be able to like make those movements, make those change because all the resources that we had is being stripped away. So now we have to be careful with even just having a college Democrats are a presence on campus, so even with limitations to what we're doing in some of our NAACP chapters. It and it's a very difficult landscape in Texas to deal with. But however, I see so many of my peers that actually are constantly getting involved and they don't take no for an answer and that's kind of what inspires me and motivates me to continue doing the work that I'm doing because even on the hard days when you want to give up you still have your peers that's out there doing the same work that you're doing as well and they want to make a change as well.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Are there any specific issues impacting the black community in Texas that you feel that have been overlooked or misunderstood?
Yes, I think there's many issues actually. Um, First, just with the with with the cost of living and lack of affordable housing. I live in Austin, and I'll take Austin as a prime example of it because when I first moved here to Texas, there was a large black community in Austin. Now to this day, that is not the same conversation anymore due to the gentrification that the city has pushing out lifelong residents in East Austin, and now it's not even recognizable. So our city councils, our state legislators, they're not passing policies or putting in initiatives for us in our communities. Along with that, you look at healthcare as a whole, and you see women they're at the unfortunate brunt of a lot of stuff when it comes to healthcare, with with um, with pregnancies and women's reproductive rights because a lot of people don't know this, but it's like women they have a higher mortality rate, um, and they have higher issues when it comes um, to their pregnancies and them facing some sort of disparities, and that's generally because of the way that our government is not doing anything to make sure that we have access to some of the things that we need. Like for example, women in our black communities, it's hard for them to go get prenatal care, and the government is not doing enough to actually provide those resources like they do in white communities.
Yeah. Okay. So, what are the main political and social issues you're currently focused on, and why are they so important to you?
So I would say my number one issue is gun violence prevention. You know, coming from Louisiana, just so many people I went to elementary and middle school with that's no longer here to this day because of gun violence. And whether that's directly at the hands of someone that's an irresponsible gun owner or criminals in general, it's too many lives that have been lost due to gun violence in this country. Some of that is from suicide. Some of that is failure to have gun locks on your guns. And I think a common misconception when it comes to gun rights is um, that a lot of people think that Democrats or the Democratic Party wants to take people's guns away. When and that's the furthest thing from the truth. Like, we don't want to take your guns away. We want to make sure that you are a responsible gun owner, and that if you have a household with a family, that you're storing that gun and protecting it from your kids who they get curious and they look around and they might end up picking up that gun, and you don't have it locked, or you don't have it stored away in a safe, and next thing you know, you're losing your kid. And so, obviously, there's cases like Uvalde that's happened, and Sandy Hooks. That's not something that I want to see us have to go through again, because it, you never know when that's going to be your cousin, your brother, your sister. You
Right.
never know when it's going to be you getting that call of, hey, it's your child's school that's in lockdown because there's an active shooter on their campus.
Mm. Yeah, boy. How you believe that young activists can make the most impact on issues like voting rights, criminal justice reform, or education reform in Texas?
So I think a lot of our young people, they the way that you can get plugged in and the way that you can make the most change in this is really looking what what the what the state legislator is doing. Going to the state capitol's website, seeing what hearings and committees are meeting, so that way you know what topics are being discussed. Sometimes they're talking about higher education, and they're talking about different issues and different policies in higher education. And sometimes it's a lot to read, but you'll see that there's some stuff in there sometimes, like Senate Bill 17 with the ban of DEI. There was a hearing on how has that affected colleges and different campuses. Um, we as citizens, we have a right to go to the state capitol and actually submit public testimony about our different experiences and what we're going through when we're voting on campuses, when when these bills like SB 17 go into effect. um, we have that right to go and tell our legislators, hey, this is what's happening, this is the effects that you're having on us. Especially when you look at different situations like the University of Texas at Austin, how they were trying to remove different polling sites from their campus. Even in Tarrant County, they were trying to remove different polling sites. You see this happening across the state, but one of the things that you see is young people, when this happens, we're energized and we're fired up, because you're not about to take our right to vote,
Mm-hmm.
because that is our most sacred right that we have. And and we have to make sure that we let you know that we're holding you accountable. So no, young people, we want to vote. And the state of Texas, they try to take it away from us, but we're gonna fight tooth and nail to make sure that we continue to vote. And so, the biggest thing that I recommend most young people doing is really looking at submitting that public testimony to the state legislature, but also becoming a voter deputy registrar. Um, that is one of the easiest things that you can do to get more members of your community tapped in to help register people to vote, or you can register them to vote yourself. But we all have to be together in this fight of really making sure that our brothers and our sisters are registered to vote and are getting out to the polls.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest challenges you face as a young black man, as a young activist in Texas, and how do you see yourself overcoming them?
So I would say one of the biggest issues is really knowing where to fit in, and knowing where you can actually say certain things, um because like I said, with Senate Bill 17 going into effect with the ban of DEI, initiatives and institutions on some of our campuses, you see things for not only the black community but also different communities, that are being targeted by that law, by that bill that was signed. And so you have things like lavender graduations that are no longer happening. You have things um, like our Hispanic communities. They have their own separate graduations. Those are not happening, and the only way that you can make those sort of things happen is if organizations are directly fundraising for those efforts and fundraising for those initiatives, because the university is no longer providing those resources anymore. And so that is one of the biggest things and biggest challenges is knowing that, here on campuses now we no longer have that support. We no longer have those resources to go out and actually do the things that we once were doing. And people think, where did our young people go? Well, we're here, but we're under such a strict and tight system that wants to institutionalize us so much to where we can't speak up, and where we can't even really show that, what we're actually doing. Sometimes we have to do things outside of the meetings and the that we have with our student organizations, as whole separate initiatives, and we can't put our university's name on it, because if we do, we're going to face repercussions because of Senate Bill 17.
Mm. Do you feel that there are specific barriers preventing black youth from engaging in political activism, and how can that be addressed?
Yeah, so I would say the civic barriers is the biggest in Texas is really the voter suppression. You see left and right how Governor Greg Abbott and Kim Paxton, they're going and they're rolling back these voter rolls, and they're removing uh, voters left and right, for all different types of reasons, and they're not telling us exactly why. Um, and I have another peer of mine who goes out every weekend and registers voters and submits them to the Secretary of State's office. They get sent back to him, and not nearly, not even half of those that he registered to vote is being processed through the system, and saying that they're coming back with errors. And then you're reaching out to the Secretary of State's office, and they're telling you that they don't know. Just keep redoing the applications, keep resubmitting them, and it keeps on coming back time and time and after again, where you have these issues and you can't get people registered to vote. And this is happening directly on black campuses, directly in black communities, and it's so frustrating. Um, and we submitted complaints to the Secretary of State's office, um, and we at this point we have to really look and see, um, how can we get the NAACP involved, because there's some sort of irregularities that's going on with the state of Texas, and registering black people to vote in general.
Yeah. Wow. How do you engage with your peers and community to encourage political involvement, especially among young black voters?
So I go out to different events, from different, sports games to concerts. I'm in a barbershop. I go get my hair cut. Not, especially when it comes closer to election season, I go get my hair cut once every week, and I'm having these conversations in the barbershop, and I'm letting people know. I'm like, hey, are you registered to vote? And they're like, nah, man, I'm not registered to vote. Well, why should I be voting? And then I'm sitting up there having hours long conversations with people in the community, letting them know, hey, this is what's at stake. This is what's on the line. This election, and this is why you need to vote, because uh, long before us, you like our grandmothers, our grandfathers was out here fighting and marching for the right to vote, and we can't throw that away. And
Yeah.
so I'm explaining to them why it's so important to make sure that you exercise those rights that our parents are and generations behind them fought so hard to make sure that those rights were protected and that we had those rights. And so, and then letting them know, think like a lot of the stigma is that politics is so broken to the point to where it can't be fixed, and I
Yeah.
I, I think that's the furthest thing from the truth. We have so many people who want to see change and to see a difference being made, and that starts with with you get involved, however you can on whatever issues that matter to you the most. And I think a big misconception is that for young people that we don't care about like issues outside of like climate change and stuff like that. Well, no, like I've heard so many times of my peers saying their grandmother was kicked off of Social Security, and so now they're having to work two or three jobs to make sure that they can bring extra income into their households, so that way their grandmother doesn't have to go back to work. And so these sort of issues they matter so much to us. And so just letting people know, yes, like you can get involved on any sort of issues that you care about.
What strategies have you found effective in mobilizing people to take action, whether it's protesting, voting, or community organizing?
So I would say it's a lot like right now I'm doing a lot with the Texas Democratic Party's Black Caucus. Um, I'm the director of communications, and through the Black Caucus, we have launched a social media blitz for getting out the vote, and it's really just explaining different policies and different issues and what's going on, and why this election is so important. And you see that the sort of turnout that we're getting and the involvement that people tapping in, and that's us sharing events, us sharing um, like exactly different policies that's going to affect the black community if Donald Trump were to be back in the White House. Um, we've seen Project 2025, and there are so many issues that's directly targeted towards the black community within Project 2025, and is letting people know that hey, this is why you need to get involved. And when people hear that and they actually go back and they read it and they look at it, they're like, okay, yeah, I did not know that. Like a lot of people, they did not know that Donald Trump wants to get rid of the Department of Education in its entirety. And and so when you explain that to them and you explain how it affects you, how it affects you directly as a young person, and how it affects their households and their kids, um, and letting them know like you know a lot of us we're not going to school off of scholarships or things like that. Our parents are not able to pay for our tuition. We have to apply for the federal Pell Grants, or for student loans. And if Donald Trump is back in the White House and he gets rid of the Department of Education, the FAFSA is gone. That
Mm-hmm.
federal grants and loans, that's gone. And so just you have to really let people know like the different issues and what's directly at stake. And so that's exactly how I've had success in getting a lot of people involved, and getting them to join different campaigns, getting them to help out wherever they can and directly in their communities. You have to meet people where they are, and that is the biggest thing. You have to meet them where they are. So some people they're able to come out to events, and do block walks, but some people they're more comfortable doing phone banks or text banks. But you have to meet them where they're at.
Okay. What if, excuse me, what advice would you give other young activists are just starting their journey, especially those who may feel they're underrepresented?
So the advice I would give them is, reach out to your student organizations that's there directly. Um, even if you're not in school, you can reach out to your youth organizations that are in your communities. Um, and that's no matter what side you're on. There is organizations for you to get tapped in, and there's even nonpartisan organizations, and you can get tapped in to those organizations, and they'll give you the resources on how to make a change, how to make a difference. For example, you have organizations like Move Texas that go out and do voter registration initiatives, in a nonpartisan way. Um, and so they can get involved in different organizations and different things like that, so that way they can make a difference in their communities. Um, but yeah, that would be the biggest advice I'll give them is really making sure to looking in your communities, look up what where's your youth organizations, and you can typically find those. For us directly with the Democratic Party, you can get involved with our Texas Young Democrats. You can get involved with our Texas College Democrats. Um, I'm proud to say that majority of the college campuses in the state of Texas have a Democratic chapter directly on their campuses. Um, and some of those are directly tied and plugged in with the Black student organizations.
What role do you see yourself playing in a broader movement for racial and social justice, both now and in the future?
So as of now, I see myself really just continuing to educate people, making sure that they know what's at stake and what's on the line, um, and getting out the vote, getting people registered to vote. That is the biggest goal I have right now is making sure that we increase voter turnout in this election. Like a lot of people say, Texas is a red state. Texas will never turn blue, um, and that's not true. Texas, we have a lot of potential here, but we really need people to go out and vote. And so, one of the biggest hurdles is making sure that people know if they're registered to vote or not. Um, and on Monday is our voter registration deadline, and so I'll let people know. Go to mytexasvotes.com and check your voter registration. Make sure that you are registered to vote. If you're not registered to vote, I'll directly plug them into people who can help them get registered to vote. And that's my immediate focus. In the long term, I do see myself staying involved to the point to where I can continue educating people, to where I can mentor more young people that want to come into these spaces and make a difference and want to make a change. Because at the end of the day, we have so much potential directly here in our state. I see some of my peers, and I see how the way that they're organized and the way that they're doing things, and I'm like, you should run for office. And so I want to get to a point to where I'm able to help them and give them the resources that they need to run for office and be successful with running for office, and we get more young people at the table.
Mm. In what way do you collaborate with marginalized groups or causes to build solidarity across different movements?
Yeah, so one thing I do a lot is not only do I attend, our black student organization meetings, but I also go to our Latinx student organization meetings as well. And I sit there and I listen to the conversations. And I listen to the conversations of so many different people, from different backgrounds, because that's the thing about Texas. We're a very diverse state. It's something completely different than what I'm used to. When I was growing up in Louisiana, there was not you know that much diversity. Here in Texas, you have such a larger landscape, and so I go and I sit into different communities, organizations, and listen to what's being said, um, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to understand um, their perspectives and their point of views is to sit there and listen. Once we listen, then we can come up with a plan of action of actually working together and seeing where's the common goals on this at, to where we can align our interests. Um, and what and that's one of the most powerful things I've seen is when you come together with another organization or with another community, and y'all have this broad coalition and y'all are fighting for the same thing. And that's exactly how you win things. That's exactly how you get things done, and you make a movement. It takes a broad coalition of people to get things done.
Okay. Well, looking ahead, what changes do you hope for to see in Texas politics, particularly regarding issues affecting the black communities?
So one of the biggest changes that I look to see, is really us getting more young people involved. We want to be there. We want to make a difference, but sometimes it does feel like, like the Democratic Party kind of leaves us behind a little bit. And so one of the things that I talk to about to some of my elders is, how can we foster in a change to where we are more receptive to having young people at the table, so that way they can talk about and feel like they're a part of this group because they want to be here. This is, a lot of them, they feel like, they identify as a Democrat, but whenever they want to join and they want to, create a change, so, sometimes a big thing here in Texas is here, you got to wait your turn. Um, and so we have to like learn how can we get our young people involved, and how can we give them ways and means of access to make a difference, because they want to make a difference from day one. And when they do make a difference from day one, you see that powerful movement that is pushed, because it creates new ideas, and you foster in new initiatives that you may not have even thought of. And so it's keeping us as a party, um, as an institution, really modernized, and letting our party know, and letting our young people know, the new generations that are coming in, that hey, we're right here with you. We're adapting as we continue to move. And so that's something that I definitely want to see. Um, and another thing that I want to see, and I don't believe this has ever happened, um, within the Texas Democratic Party, but I want to see us elect our first black chair of the state party.
Okay. Which brings on to this question, since you just said that, what is your vision for the future of activism and political engagement among black youth in Texas? And what role do you see yourself playing in that vision?
So I see more young black Texans getting involved, and I see them running for things like, our state Democratic Executive Committee members, and our congressional districts. I see them running for city council. I see them running for office. I see them running to you know to be the seat at the table for our DNC members. And the role that I see myself in that is really, helping people that want to run for those positions, give them that advice that they need. Because I've been a DNC member before. I know exactly what it takes to be at these meetings, to go, what that looks like, that landscape, that culture, and give them that feedback and say, this is exactly what resonates with your community. This is exactly what resonates with the neighborhood that you're in. And this is exactly how you can make different changes within the Democratic Party as a whole. Um, and so I want to be there to give people guidance. As far as my political future, I don't know what that holds, yet. I pray, and I ask God for a vision on that. And I'm allow Him to lead the way.
Two things I'm gonna fall back on that was mentioned. The first one was about taking things out of the schools, or they're taking ballot boxes, or what is that? What they're trying to move them so it'd be harder for y'all to cast your vote, or what's going on with that?
Yes, yes. So at the University of Texas at Austin, they tried to close the main voting location on campus and move it to a different location. Um, it was thanks to our university Democrats, um, that's at UT Austin, that went to the commissioner's court in Travis County, and spoke out against them closing that. Um, a lot of young people, they focused and they fought around that, and making sure that polling location stayed open. And for context, that direct polling location, that is where 90% of your voter turnout was happening on campus, and they're trying to close that and give it to a new location, where nobody knows, or nobody's used to going, um,
Yeah.
to vote in those locations.
Okay. My last question is the youth. You're right there with the youth. How is this so important to them? Because we always hear about the adults and everything. So, what does the youth take on the election coming up? Are they involved as you want them to be, or could be more involvement by the youth?
So I would say young people are involved. They're here. They're like I can say we thank President Joe Biden for what he's done um during his term. And he made the most courageous decision that he could have made of dropping out and passing the torch to Kamala Harris. By him doing that, that is exactly what fired up young people to want to get involved and to actually want to go out and make the difference and start making the calls, start knocking on the doors, and start actually organizing to make sure that we win this election. Um, because you know when you see the torch being passed to a younger person, it fires you up, it motivates you, and it gives you that refresher of like, yes, like we're meant to be in these spaces, yes, we're meant to be here. And so I see thousands of young people across the country, even directly here in Texas, that are organizing day in and day out. We have so many different organizations here in Texas where young people are at the front lines of those organizations, and they're out every single day registering voters on campus. Um, and for example, that like one of a youth organizer I know, he's out in Hayes County at Texas State University, and he's there every single day registering voters through Powered by People, and he's also the president of the Hayes Young Democrats. And so and you see Hayes County, um, they have started turning more and more blue, and that's thanks to the works of young people of really pushing the needle there and getting the vote out. And so, yes, young people, we're here, we're excited, we know what's at stake, we know what's at line, and you know we get a lot of people who ask how can they get involved, how can they get plugged in, and my first thing I tell them is reach out to your college Dems organization because they have the infrastructure and they have the initiatives uh, to really go in and help you get plugged into your directly to your state and directly to your chapter. So yeah,
Oh, Justin, I mean, I was energized when I seen it going on, but to hear from a young man talking how energized he is, there's hope out there. I mean, let you know because a lot of people kind of sort of forget about the young people out there, but they are out there in droves from what I've been hearing, and it's nice to hear that firsthand that y'all are involved, and that's the key, getting involved. And my hat goes off to you, Justin, for doing what you're doing, sir.
yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. You take care. Any last words you want to tell everybody how to get a hold of you or anything else going on?
Yeah, of course. So, if you all want to reach out to me, I'm always open for any questions. If you need any advice as a young person on how to get involved or how to get involved in general, you can reach out to me directly at Justin I Parker TX at gmail.com. Um, or you can follow me on social media at Justin I Parker. I'm more than willing to answer any questions. And one of the biggest things that I really want to preface here before leaving is our voter registration deadline is coming up on Monday. So please make sure that you check your voter registration at mytexasvotes.com, and make sure that you are set up to vote this election. Um, that like there's so much at stake, and you have to get your voice heard. Um, but outside of that, I'm actually currently in North Carolina right now. I'm with the DNC's Black Caucus. We're having our Southern Regional Summit here, and so it's powerful. Like it's another thing that's to energize us and get us fired up as I'm coming up to come back and finish off this election cycle, so that way we can go and elect our first black senator of the state of Texas, Colin Allred.
Yes, sir. And don't everybody don't forget, the deadline is on Monday, but also early voting starts October 21st. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you taking time out, and don't work too hard out there.
Yes, sir.
All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, sir. Bye bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody, that was Justin Parker right there. Out there. Ooh, man, I love to hear the youth involved. That really made my day to hear that right here, and need more involvement like that by the youth or young men and young women. I really do appreciate him taking the time out. Everybody, this is Ronald Gordon. I'm with Texas in Color, and we'll catch everybody next week. Have a blessed weekend.